I came across an old copy of Shortwave magazine recently, and one of the articles in there was the ZL Special. Now that took me back because I actually remember building it. I think the magazine was 1959, and I was licensed actually in 1960, so I must have got a copy of this. Anyway, I do remember building this ZL Special. 10 metres was wide open at that particular time, 1959, 1960. We had a sunspot maximum, and it was absolutely fantastic. Probably one of the best ones we've ever had, certainly better than the one we've had recently. And it was very easy to work across to the States with very low power. But this ZL Special promised an awful lot. It was a 2-element beam that you could easily build yourself. It was slightly smaller than full size. That attracted me. And all you needed was some bits of aluminium or some bits of wire and some wood, and you could make this ZL Special beam. And I can remember making it. I didn't have a rotator. I had it, we lived in a bungalow, and I was able to jump out of my window, my bedroom window, and down the garden and rotate the antenna and then come back in again. And in order to get the best possible signal, I turned the volume up of the receiver so I could hear it when I was down the garden. In actual fact, the area was only halfway down the garden, so it wasn't too bad. But I do remember going down the garden, turning the sound up first of all, going down the garden, rotating the aerial, then getting back through the window, only to find the station is already working somebody else. But anyway, let me tell you a bit about the ZL Special because it's quite interesting actually. Well, I found a copy of the Shortwave magazine. It was March 1959. Gosh, that goes back a long time. And there's an advert near the back of the magazine, and you could purchase an R1155 receiver, tested, working, for £12, 19 shillings and sixpence. That radio, the 1155, was very popular then, but still at school I couldn't afford one. £12, I'm not sure what £12 was in 1959, what it's worth today, but anyway, I couldn't afford that. I had to have an R107 receiver. Anyway, I must have kept a copy of this magazine because there was an article in there, the ZL Special Antenna. Now, I'd never heard of it before, but it inspired me because 10 metres, as I've said just now, was wide open. And I wanted to get onto the band and work some DX, and the idea of actually building myself a 2-element beam really attracted me. But in actual fact, I'm not quite sure the ZL Special was as good as it was claimed to be. Let me go back a bit further in time. The basic concept of the antenna was conceived by ZL3MH, although there had been some work done before that. And that was around about 1949. And ZL3MH became ZL2QQ. And he did some work on this design, which basically was 2 elements driven with 1 element out of phase with another to give forward gain. But the actual title, ZL Special, was actually created or conceived by G2BCX. G2BCX was Fred Judd, who was very well known in the 1950s. He was quite a creative contributor to Shortwave magazine and I think Practical Wireless. And Fred lived in East London, and I do remember working and hearing G2BCX on the 160 metre band back in the day, or top band as we called it then. All the initial development work seems to have been done on the 10 metre band. And there were actually 2 versions of this antenna, one where the elements were identical length and one where the reflector was slightly longer, as one expects with a Yagi design. The reason that you could operate this antenna with identical length elements was the fact that the reflector was fed out of phase at the required phase angle, and that gave directivity and front to back. Now it seems that this antenna created a great deal of interest because of the claimed performance. The claimed performance of this antenna was that you could get forward gain similar to that of a 3-element Yagi. That means to say that the antenna erected at say halfway above the ground will give a forward gain of around about 7, possibly 8 dB, which is very good, and certainly you couldn't get that forward gain with a normal 2-element Yagi. It was also close space, which means to say that it took up less room, and the front to back ratio was said to be very good indeed. And because of that claim to fame, it became a popular antenna to look at and build. More recent times, it seems that actually that forward gain was a little bit optimistic, to say the least. In reality, tests in more recent times have shown that the forward gain is more likely to be around about 4 dB, 4.5 dB, which is very similar to a 2-element Yagi. The front to back is typically around about 15 dB, again typical of a 2-element Yagi. So it does seem to be that the ZL Special, as good as it may be, didn't really have a gain or front to back ratio much better than a 2-element Yagi, although the actual boom was somewhat shorter than a conventional Yagi, but there are other advantages of it. So let's just take a look now at the basic concept of this 2-element Yagi. A design published by W4RNL shows the original concept of this antenna, and it comprises 2 lengths of 300 ohm ribbon. Each length forms one of the elements, and that feeder is open circuit at the feed point and at the phasing point. So you've got 2 lengths of 300 ohm ribbon, and the actual length of the phase-in line is shown as 4 foot 27 inches, and that length is calculated to be 1/8 of wave. So the secret of this antenna is to use 1/8 wave of phase-in line, which is actually reversed, and that gives a 135-degree phase shift, and that phase shift gives you the forward gain and the front to back ratio. And you can see on the screen here now the actual drawing conceived by W4RNL. Now, how do you feed the antenna? Well, there's 2 ways of feeding it. You could put a 4-to-1 balun at the feed point and then take coax to it. Alternatively, you could take 300 ohm ribbon all the way back to the transceiver and feed that via an antenna matching unit. There's 2 choices. Now, there doesn't seem to be any particular advantage in making the reflector slightly longer than the driven element as you would in a normal Yagi. Using elements identical length seems to be okay. And W4RNL makes the point that although the forward gain and the front to back ratio is not dissimilar to what you get with a 2-element Yagi, the fact that you've got an 1/8 wave spacing is certainly at an advantage because the antenna is somewhat smaller, and it also seems to tolerate slight variations in matching and dimensions, which actually means that you get very good performance across the whole of the 10-meter band in terms of forward gain and front to back ratio. Now, normally a Yagi has a sweet spot, and that sweet spot is quite narrow. This particular design seems to have a sweet spot which covers basically the whole of the 10-meter band. Now, I think the 10-meter band was chosen for 2 reasons. First of all, because it was very active, very open at the time that people were experimenting with this antenna, and also because obviously it was a very compact antenna. Bearing in mind there weren't that many rotators around, there weren't many masts or lattice towers or anything like that. You just had a pole down the garden. So a pole down the garden with a fairly crude rotator or just hand rotating it lent itself to this particular design. Now, I put up on the screen the design that originally caught my eye by G3KWH. This was a compressed ZL Special. So not only was it a ZL design or a ZL special, it was actually compressed by putting loading coils in both the driven and the reflector element, using a coax matching line and then feeding it with coax back to the transceiver. So it was an adaptation of the original design, and that was the design that I built. You know, I can't honestly remember how well it worked. Probably not as well as it should do, because I didn't have a VSWR meter. I just copied the dimensions. I'll put up on the screen now the design of this antenna, and also I'll put up on the screen the actual dimensions of this antenna. So if you want to build it yourself, you can. But it's a very small antenna actually. Now, in current times, the ZL design, the ZL special design, has been used as a means of driving VHF antennas. I'm not quite sure how that came around, but anyway, the basic design has been adapted for VHF antennas, where the driven element and the reflector are basically ZL special, and then you get forward reflecting elements. And I've never used one myself, but I guess it must work pretty well, otherwise they wouldn't keep perpetuating the design, and I think it's used commercially in one or two small portable antennas. And I guess that the performance is basically, as has been found, about 4 dB or so with forward gain for the two elements and a front to back ratio of 15 dB. Now I'll put up on the screen the radiation pattern created by W4RNL following some software programming or software design work, and you'll see that basically it's got a fairly respectable forward gain. The front to back has got a little bit of a bulbous radiation pattern to the back of it, so the best front to back ratio is actually 180 degrees. If you move the antenna around a bit, then the actual front to back ratio diminishes somewhat. And finally, I put up on the screen another radiation pattern published of the antenna, and here you'll see that it's somewhat different from that published by W4RNL, which perhaps suggests that modelling software is not perfect. Take your pick. Certainly the forward gain seems to be there. The front to back ratio and the pattern of the front to back ratio is a bit questionable. But basically I think it's a popular antenna. It's been around for a long time, and if you fancy doing some experimentation, then this might be worth having a look at, because it's not too complicated to build. It is compact, and you may learn something, and in the process have a lot of fun. Here we are. So thanks for your support on this channel. Another one of these historic antennas. I hope it's proved interesting. Don't forget, Milton Keynes, we've got the largest distribution centre for ham radio in the UK, possibly in Europe. We can supply virtually any item, and go on a website or give us a call. You'll get those goods very, very quickly. You'll get great after sales service. We've been around for a long time, 52 years, longer than any other dealer. So we tend to know what we're talking about, and we tend to know that giving good service is the best way to go in ham radio. Enjoy your ham radio, you take care. Look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.